Hello out there today. This is Eric Johnson, the brand.
And Aaron Thigpen, the source.
Welcome to our podcast today with the brand and the source. Eric Johnson, Aaron Thigpen. Aaron, good day to you. Got a nice subject here today about playing free. Playing free, really, just letting all your athletic ability come out in game situations, not worried about how you practice or your fundamentals, but how do you play free in competition? And I kind of talk to athletes all the time about this. This seems to be the big $100,000 question about how do I do that to play up to my ability when, things are important. It's an important time in the game or important event. How do I play free and feel and just let it loose, and athletes have trouble doing that. And I thought that'd be a good subject for us to talk about today.
I guess my initial thoughts go in the direction of how things are so structured for athletes now in their training and their practices. Do they really have that time to play free in practices? In other words, are there, besides the regular routine drills and exercises, are there times where they actually get to play and improvise and kind of just, enjoy those training sessions where maybe they, be more creative, not necessarily worry about the outcomes, those sorts of things. Again, we always talk about the things we did when we were younger, where,
right,
we had a good balance, or actually probably an imbalance, where we played more than we practiced or trained. So, and that play was in unstructured environments. So,
right,
for instance, you'd play t-ball, wiffle ball, all that stuff for hours on end every day, sometimes of the year, but you'd only have one baseball practice a week or two.
Right.
So growing up,
Right.
I think a lot of those things, those activities were more on the play side. So there was a lot more freedom to express yourself athletically and maybe not get caught up in the minutia, the technical aspects of your sport.
Mm-hmm. I think of some things, Aaron, when I think about free and playing. One is like at recess when you were a kid growing up. You used to have those races. They had little lines, painted lines in the concrete, and you were just competing to see how fast you could run. You weren't worried about technique. You're like, can I beat this guy?
Exactly.
I don't see that I don't see that very often. And what I try to do in practices is bring out that freedom, that competition. Hey, you're gonna race against this guy. How fast can you beat him to second base? Or we set up a scrimmage and it's you're not worried about fundamentals. It's like, okay, we have guys on second and third. You got to knock them in. Now you got to compete. And I think that goes a long way. And I think athletes forget that, you go to, whether it's a big event, a track meet, or it's a football showcase, a soccer showcase, or anything like that, athletes forget that it's really competition. It's not, people are watching you, great. But isn't that fun? I mean, I used to love, when I was growing up, Aaron, I played a lot of major events, played in the Little League World Series, pitched in against Taiwan in the Senior League World Series, did all that stuff, played for Team USA. And I just love having people in the stands to watch what I was going to do that day. Mm-hmm. I thought that was fun. It had nothing to do with, I'm thinking about where my elbow is or, how I'm fielding the ground ball. But it's just the raw essence of being an athlete in an athletic endeavor of enjoying that experience. I think it's playing free is part of enjoying the experience.
Right. Well, you mentioned, the word fun, quite a bit in what you were describing. And I think the athletes, no matter what level they are, they have to be enjoying the competition. They have to be having fun. And when, and this is probably on us as coaches and parents, put so much emphasis on the result and the outcome, then it gives them probably too much to think about versus having fun. So, if a kid is worried about his launch angle or his foot strike,
right,
running, or the elbow angle on his arm swing, if you feed so much, we feed so much information to these kids that they're developing these checklists in their head of how to do these things versus just, once they get there, having fun and, letting what happens. And they're so focused on the process, they're not, I guess, they're so focused on how they're doing it versus just doing it and being in the moment.
It's funny. Last week, I was in Arizona with one of our teams, Aaron, and we were playing this really talented group of guys across the field, probably about 10 or 12, 13 D1 commits. And I told the kids afterwards, wasn't this experience great? And we beat them, obviously. But the whole thing wasn't this fun today? Forget about the score and forget about everything else that went along with the hype on social media, whether it was on Twitter, Instagram, or guys being mic'd up. Yeah, guys on the other team mic'd up talking about what was going on in the game, Right. But wasn't this just raw, fun, athletic endeavor? And wasn't it fun competing? That's why I said to them, wasn't it fun competing? Wasn't this fun today? That was my first word. I go, guys, we can play with these guys. That has nothing to do with it. But wasn't this a fun experience? Isn't this what you live for? Isn't this what you train for? Right. It doesn't matter. The outcome didn't matter to me. I told them, guys, I'm proud of you today because you competed and we had fun. That's what I said to them. And, we won, and that's great, but I'm not surprised. I said, I'm not surprised. I just love just being in this type of game, this arena. And that's playing free to me. Being in a place where you're allowing yourself to not worry at all about anything, outcome, fundamentals. Did I do this right? Did I do this wrong? I told guys as we were going through the gamer, and I go, hey, listen, what'd you learn from that experience right there? Next time you get in that situation, just do that. And who cares what happens, but make an adjustment and just go for it. And don't worry about what is going on with other stuff. You miss your pitch. So what? You get it again. Don't miss it. That's a competition thing. That's the essence of being free, is allowing that to happen all the time.
When I was a track coach, I used to, get athletes who would kind of get all tensed up and they get nervous. And I just tell them, hey, look, there's nothing, we've already done the work. So whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So you might as well enjoy it. And athletes just need to understand that, hey, if it doesn't work out that day, well, you take another shot at it. But I used to always tell them too that, hey, look, if you've done the work, then be confident in the work that you've done.
Right.
And you have nothing to worry about. So, to me, those who are probably having more stress are probably the ones who are realizing that, hey, maybe I didn't do all the things I needed to do to prepare myself for this moment.
I tell the coaches out there listening to us, Aaron, is that, when you go out there and talk to your athletes, I think it's important that you say something different. That's what's going on in this situation. I went out and talked to one of our pitchers. I just said, listen, man, it's warm out here, isn't it, man? Look at the sun, man. This is great. I mean, could you imagine it's freezing back at home? We're out here playing. This is pretty cool, And he kind of looked at me kind of funny because he's in a tough situation. I go, man, I tell you, it's a beautiful day, man. You're going to do great right here. I'll see you later, man. I'll see you back in the dugout in a couple of pitches. And I walked off the field, because, I want that athlete to break the cycle they're in.
Yeah.
And that's part of being free too, is allowing yourself to laugh at yourself. Right. On yourself to say, what am I doing? Making fun of yourself, whatever that is. Coaches do that. Parents do that to your athletes out there. They need a break. They need to take a time out, as you say, for a second just to regroup and get back to their plan. You're not going to be focused and intense every second of the event. There's times when you learn how to concentrate, put it on and put it out. Aaron, when you're running track, you're a world-class sprinter. I'm sure you're not thinking about it 24/7, at the meet, and that's all you get there. And then you get an event, you're just like, oh, you're just so overstimulated with thoughts that you can't perform. Right. I mean, how did you handle that when you were running, man?
I just had I had a competitive switch. So I knew how to turn it on and turn it off. And, there are times where literally I'd be taking a nap up to 15 minutes before I ran, or I wouldn't be horse playing or anything like that. But, I liked hanging out with the fellas at the track meets because you get to see guys you hadn't seen for a while. They might be from across the country and you catch up with them, those who want to, do that. And so I might shoot the shit with guys, up until it's time to get prepared. Then it's game face on. And then after that, after the race is over, literally after you cross the line, switch goes off. And it's like, hey, that was a good race. Or, what happened, man? Or what do you think you're doing, man? You're trying to beat me back there. That's kind of was my approach. Yeah. So I never really took it, wins or losses real personally. Obviously if I didn't do something correct, I'd be like, oh man, I didn't do that right. Get that right. But, for me, I just liked competing and I liked being out there. So yeah, I love winning more than I like losing, but I just had a different take on what my experience for that day should be.
Oh.
So my experience wasn't about the win or the lose.
Right.
The experience was about meeting the challenge, competing, and then, hey, how did I do against the field, but also how did I do against myself, and how did I do against the goals that I set for myself for that day? So, there were times where I might be working on a certain phase of my race, and I know working on that phase, I wasn't going to win. But if I ran the race and I did what I had set out to do, I was like, okay, that's all right, because it was a means to an end later on.
Kind of like building
blocks. It also depends, yeah. So I guess it just depends also on the level of the competition. Now obviously when it starts to get to be US nationals or Olympic trials, like that, yeah, there's a lot more at stake and a lot more on line. But building up to that, a little bit different take on things, But even then, going to those events, it was about still competing well, showing well, doing what you did, but what was the total experience?
Yeah, I think back at, my experience as an athlete, and even today when I dabble out there and get out to a qualifier in golf and try to compete that way, Aaron. You said one key word that really triggered this thought is the experience. What the experience is and how it relates to your goal that day or, future in the future. And so the experience is what I think drove me to be an athlete. It drives me today to do this stuff. The experience, man, what a great opportunity. And I think athletes out there to play free have to realize that it's the opportunity and experience that gets you to your, to your end goal a lot. Even at a high ranking event, it's still you're trying to move forward and play free during that experience.
Yeah. No, I agree.
All right, Aaron, this kind of wraps up this subject of playing free today. And people out there, this is our podcast out here. It's the brand and the source. It's Eric Johnson, Aaron Thigpen. Glad that you could tune in today. And again, this is Coach EJ, the brand.
And Coach Aaron, the source. We want to remind you guys, you can also follow us on YouTube now. We've got a YouTube channel, so these episodes will be posted on there. like them. Again, comment, send us some feedback. We're doing this to answer some of the questions that you have. So feel free to comment, feel free to ask us something, because it could be great information that we'd want to share with everyone else as well in the podcast. We'll see you guys.